Okay, so we've got to step 3 so far. The problem, the solution. Problem being step 1, solution being step 2. Awareness. And then once you can distinguish awareness from the forms that appear as personal direction over body sensation, then as awareness you can choose to be the experience. Okay, not giving the experience to personal will over body sensation. Remain as awareness, remain as I am. Okay.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Steve, on the be the experience?
Yeah. When you see the problem, okay, of self-will direction, the mental and emotional identity reacting.
Yeah.
What happens is the experience separates from consciousness being the experience, and you get caught up in an I, you get caught up in a you. Okay, you get caught up in you. So awareness lives for you, when what should be happening is you, the mental emotional nature over body instinct, should be living for awareness. This is the shift in consciousness. Okay, so to elaborate more, I would say so far you've seen the problem, and it's impulsive. You can investigate when you start distinguishing awareness from what you're usually accustomed to think, to emote, to seek out balance in one's security, one's body. When you investigate, you come to see that old way of trying to manage your life from the I or the ego is impulsive.
Yeah.
Even seeking is impulsive. The next book, the next teacher, the next YouTube clip. There's an impulse to try and understand, to try and get. Okay. When what you get, what you understand is all given to yourself. It's given to the idea of you getting something, getting happy, getting secure, because that is the old custom of the ego, is to bring security to fruition, to find happiness, you see, and it's an impulse. It's compulsion.
Okay, so it is another way of saying that to remain empty, to be the experience, to remain empty.
Yeah, to remain as awareness is to remain empty. Okay, so once you've seen the problem of compulsion, which means mind over body, you in the beginning find that awareness itself is more transcendent, it comes first. Okay, it's always there. All right, but it's just not accustomed yet to be the experience of your body. It's not accustomed to. The old habit of reacting and to seek happiness kind of overrides it, you see, and because where one has lost awareness to this compulsive desire to direct your life, it's that it in itself is the addiction, is this attachment to the mind, the personal willful direction of where one has identified with the body. So awareness standing alone, when you can distinguish that from your forms, it doesn't mean that suddenly you're going to intuitively start going through life claiming yourself, identifying yourself as awareness, and everything then starts to associate or identify with awareness being the experience. So there's stages here. So when in the second stage, in the second step, when you can distinguish awareness from the habit, let's call it a habit, because that's really what it is. It's a custom. Okay, you'll then, as awareness, in step 3, you'll say, okay, in step 3, it's like I lose myself to this overriding habit of possessing the body, what we call self or ego activity, seeking. I'll remain as awareness being experienced, and as awareness, I'll give everything to it. I'll give everything to it and just remain as awareness.
Okay.
So that's step 3. So that's the challenge. As awareness, can you accept everything in your usual process? It may not match you. It may still be in the habit of pulling you into doership, into seeking activity, maintaining an ego presence, which in turn separates you from awareness being the experience. So at step 3, that's the challenge. Can you remain as awareness?
Yeah.
Okay. Despite whatever thought is arising, emotion, whatever body sensation, can you remain as awareness being experienced? Despite what is going on. Now here, there's an old habit that people fall into, which totally gets in the way of you just remaining as awareness. With people that are not quite at this stage, just because awareness can be distinguished from their forms, they still hold the old habit of ideology, how they would like their spirituality to be. So for instance, remaining as awareness, and a pattern comes up and it's not terribly good. It could be the shadow side of yourself. It could be jealousy, envy, could be resentment and stuff like that. I'll just finish what I'm saying, Donna, and I'll come straight to you. The temptation here is to still adopt the old custom of wanting your spiritual life to be what it is you want. And then already you've been pulled out of the witness position into wanting to be happy, or wanting, and your awareness has gone to your sense of self. Donna, would you like to talk?
Yeah, when you said the phrase, you said something about wanting our spirituality to be a certain way, and does that, like, what you're talking about kind of relates back to the Pharisees in the Bible, like the Pharisees and Jesus, of sort of like spirituality being sold or taught to you or given to you by like an outside authority. And I don't know, I'm just curious, like, as to your reflection on, like, in the world today, how much that being sold something, how much it's almost like it's gotten to an extreme level where we're almost preyed upon by I don't know, like it's almost opportunistic of being a better seller of self-improvement, spirituality. So in a way we're, I don't know, anyway, so I'm curious about your comment on that. Thank you.
It's a very good question. In fact, that's a very, very good question, and it's a question that very much points at what I'm saying. So you've obviously picked up on that, and it's quite true that there is commercial value to any spiritual process, and it's precisely at this point of awareness where you are preyed upon. An outside influence could offer you a certain ideology or a certain image as to what spirituality looks like. And particularly in this time, there does seem to be what's the word? There's a huge interest in spirituality. But of course, with the interest in spirituality, when we look at spirituality, there are certain stages of spirituality. And there's certain stages of spirituality where you can get stuck in. And yet there's a huge market for that will have you believe what spirituality is, so that as the I am, as the awareness, you can get pulled into an image of adopting a certain spiritual facade. Today, especially with the rise of the internet and the ability to get information, we've lost the real sense of what spirituality really is, and we've got caught up in the being sold certain images. So it's at this point of step 3 where it can get in the way, because when you start when you can distinguish awareness from your form, your form, the activity of your forms in its personal direction to the body, really it's about remaining, as Scott just said, remaining empty. And of course there's no glamour in that, but you could build a house next door to it that's very glamorous. That's wearing the spiritual paraphernalia, saying the right spiritual words and appearing as spiritual, when really there's no appearance for spirituality. There's no glamour to spirituality at all. And this is where people can be sold down the Swanee in that sense. The spirituality that is attractive to someone at this stage of remaining as I am is the sort of spirituality that gives you something to do, something to say, something that appears spiritual. But I can assure you there's nothing. At this stage in step 3, when you're remaining as I am, even clever words do not serve you, not a clever concept or a clever thing. It's just remaining at that time. Remaining, one can distinguish awareness from the problem, and as awareness being the solution, remain as awareness. It's so unglamorous, it's incredible. And then at some point realizing that as awareness, you're going to allow all experience to associate to awareness being the experience. Now, in the 4th stage, we learn how to do that. And it's in the 4th stage that this over-commercial image of spirituality can also follow you, okay? And I think this is going to be interesting if I explain it well enough, if I can get it across in a way that you can understand, because it's all about communication. But so when step 3 is I am is the solution, and I am is also the experience of the forms, whereby the old idea of you used to claim the experience from your mental and emotional nature. In step 4, we start to learn discrimination, okay? And discrimination in turn is in fact a conscious process. But it's here that you can also be duped by the commercial outside influence of people saying this is what spirituality looks like. Spirituality doesn't look like anything, okay? Doesn't look like a guru. Some people need a guru, an external guru, until they realize that the I am is the internal guru that everyone is, okay? So it takes a bit of maturity, and there's no glamour, really there's no glamour. So in step 4, we've made the decision as awareness to be the experience. That's all, to be the experience of your body, mind, and So in its decision to be the experience of your body mind, it can distinguish awareness from your forms, but the forms may not match you. Don't forget, you spent your whole life in your mental and emotional negotiation of your body sensation, seeking security, happiness, and balance. That's what we do, okay? But now we're about to give all of that to our natural state. We're giving it all back to what truly is experiencing, okay? So in step 4, we learn to discriminate, all right? And when we learn to discriminate, basically what we're doing is we're coming to distinguish, okay, that when there is a pattern of self-will, personal direction over instinct, as I am, we start to not identify with the mental and emotional identity. Instead, we start to first feel what the body sensation is. Okay, we feel what the body sensation is. When we feel what the body sensation is, what we're doing is we're allowing the body aspect or sensation to start associating to the I am consciousness, the natural state. In the body's association to consciousness being the experience, the body starts changing as a cause and condition. Okay, it starts to soften, starts to open, it starts to associate to consciousness being the experience. So you start having a very real experience of yourself. Now, the old pattern that used to react to the body sensation is beginning to change. It's beginning to change because the very cause and condition of the old pattern to possess it is changing. Okay. Now, this process is done by no one. There's no image, there's no commercial value, and there's nothing in it for you, so to speak. It's just simply remaining true to what you're experiencing, but first seeing what you're experiencing in the body, and when there is a tendency to react to it, not identifying with that, and allowing that tension that pulls you into, you know, that tension that I said on Thursday, that is attention, brings you into attention, begins to soften, whereby the witness is the experience, the body starts to change, and it causes a different cause. It becomes a different cause and condition to the old habit of possessing it. Okay, it's a very simple process. All right, I've kind of given you just a couple of minutes on it. Of course, there's a lot more to that, but in its basic tenet, it is just that. All right, but it's precisely here that the commercial influence of how you could appear spiritually can follow you. Okay, and it's here that you must be on guard. All right, from such influence and such image to explain what spirituality looks like. Spirituality doesn't look like anything. If anything, there's nothing in it for you. But you'll see many people on the internet with the smile, with the effect, with the voice, with this is what it looks like, and of course it doesn't look like that at all. True spirituality is just real, and it's a reality that's deeper than you, that in the end, when you get to the end of 12 steps, is what is appearing as you, and there's nothing in it for you. There's no, you know, matching dresses with flowers and all of that stuff. All of that goes out the window. There's all of that is for people that are quite immature in their spirituality, quite immature. And immaturity is an aspect of becoming mature. People have to start off somewhere, you know. But when you get to this stage, when one has actually awakened to awareness being the experience, you're now following the inner guru. The external guru has fallen away. All of that existed in your mind. All of that existed in the image, but you're not going by that anymore. You see, you're going by the inner guru that everyone really is, you know. So it's a level of maturity that you get to, but not everyone is at that level of maturity. If you look around the world, most people are caught up in the glamour. Most people are childlike in their spirituality. And that's not a criticism. That's just a fact that most people haven't awakened to that level yet, or, you know, haven't realized that true autonomy is done purely by awareness and nothing else. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Must be the dry air because I have to shut the window when I do a webinar. So, but it is what it is. When I was first introduced to spirituality in terms of spiritual principles, working the 12 steps, there were people that when they had a higher power, it was dolphins, fairies, things like that. And of course, I had a huge respect for that, because whatever it takes to keep you sober, whatever idea you have that it takes you out of self-obsession and has you more of an altruistic person, and you're not drinking, then I would never put anyone's beliefs down, whatever it was. You know, I just wouldn't, and I wouldn't do that today either. But I will mention that there are levels of maturity. So you'll get people that have very simplistic ideas, or some people that love a guru to be charismatic like a guru, you know, and again, it's that person living by an image or serving an image of what gives them self-consolation or gives them happiness. But there comes a point of maturity where you realize that it's just down to you. It's just down to you as awareness, and as awareness, how that claims back the body, how the body reassociates to you as awareness, and not getting caught up in the subconscious reaction that is mental and emotional with a sense of identity, just living in relation to the body, seeking happiness, you see. And what you find when you start as you mature, as awareness begins to mature, and you kind of get that, you realize that from the point of awareness, that's when a lot of things fall away, a lot of people fall away, you know, a lot of teachers that you're into seem not interesting anymore. They seem at a certain level, and you end up coming to people like me where there's not many people. That's just how it is, because this isn't glamorous. This isn't for you. But the temptation in step 4, the temptation for me when I did my first step 4, which is taking inventory, or what I would call it today is inquiry. Okay, inquiry seems to be the universal spiritual word for observing oneself in a way where remaining as awareness, so that whatever you're observing starts to associate to what is observing. And of course, in that there is a cleansing, there is a kind of reconfiguration, what we can call embodiment, or things like that, but it's done purely by awareness and nothing else. So but when I first did my inquiry, it was all about me. It was all about it, you know. I awakened to a process, but it wasn't an awakening. I hadn't awakened to awareness being the experience, not in my first set of steps. It's only after the awakening I saw that step 4, inquiry, wasn't for me anymore, whereas before it was all for me. It was all for me. And I'll give you some examples of what I awakened to in terms of process. Was just the fact that the way it was laid out in the book, they did it in columns. The first column is the name of the thing you fear or resent, you know, the cause and condition, why, whatever. And then it was what part of self did it affect? And you always felt that in your body, the body instinct. And then in the next column, it said, putting out the minds and wrongs of other people. What do you think you did to keep this ball rolling or whatever? And I began to then see the nature of my mind in relation to my instinct. I began to see this very, very powerful process of looking at oneself. Even though I wasn't awakened, it still remained a very powerful process that allowed me to become more accountable for the way I reacted to life and the way I reacted to myself, you see. So in a sense, it was like a therapy. It was like a personal therapy technique that I had to get through life. But after the awakening, all of that changed. That dramatically changed. It was no longer a therapy for me, you see. Instead, it became a much deeper inquiry where I could, from observation, see a pattern of will in relation to the body. And instead of trying to work it all out and trying to fix the mental and the emotional nature, I'd go straight to the body, straight. Didn't care about the projection at all, you know. And I wasn't using a projective kind of identity to manage anymore. There was simply no Steve left. So what was left was this witness, this oneness or observation. And I noticed that when I just remained in the cause and condition of all of this thinking, the cause and condition is what softened. And as a result, that just naturally either fell away or reconfigurated in a different way to the cause and condition of my body. The mind wasn't trying to do anything. The mind wasn't trying to direct anything. I was beginning to experience pure sadhana, okay, pure sadhana. And the depth then of step 4, or should I say inquiry, opened up to a much deeper way of consciousness, just much deeper. But of course, so many people get stuck here, and I included, you know, before really understanding the nature of awareness and the nature of inquiry. I like many people, there was a lot of self-consolation. I was very happy. I was very clear. If I felt something and it turned into a pattern, I could see what the pattern was based on. I could change the thoughts, change the feelings, change the behavior, start getting that unmet need met in a different way, which then made my body feel better, which then ended that old cause and condition to dysfunctional thinking. But the thing was, it was all me. It was all me. The body was still associating to a mental and emotional direction of therapeutic technique. Now that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But once awakening had occurred, it was wrong, trust me, it was wrong, okay? But it's not wrong if you don't know. If you don't know it, then that's fine. You're still at that point where you've still something to learn. But when you've awakened to your essential nature, you can't do that anymore. You can't just suddenly separate and start managing it from a and bring the body in relation to the mental balance. What I began to see in a much deeper level of inquiry was, it really didn't matter if there was a sudden mental reaction with an emotional component in response to something in my body. It didn't matter, you know. consciousness remained permanent, consciousness remained the experience, okay? But what I noticed in step 4, in the ongoing integration, was that the pattern to direct was still there, but the attachment to it wasn't. Okay, the attachment to it had already gone through dissolution. So I didn't see the pattern as me. I just saw it as a pattern, but being awakened to it, I focused on the cause and condition. I began to bring the body in association to consciousness being the experience. Now, that was very different to what I was doing before. But even doing what I was doing before, in managing it myself and being happy and being personally consoled, having a sense of empowerment from this technique, I thought I was being spiritual. In fact, if I taught that now, I would be more successful. There would be more of it. There's such a huge demand for mental and emotional insight into body sensation and how to manage it and how to clear it. You know, we clear it. We do the work. We're going to get honest. We're going to share our deep feeling. We're going to get vulnerable. When in fact, a lot of that is just the flip side coin, the other side of the coin of self-obsession. But it's okay. It's not wrong. But it is just what it is. When you mature as a soul, when I say soul, I mean as the knowledge itself, as awareness being what comes first. You can't give that experience anymore to personal direction. Okay, so when that ego, the identity aspect, the identification falls away, it's just then you just start seeing how with body sensation is the cause and condition of how you've learned in the past to meet that. But now you're allowing the body to come inward to what it's experiencing, and you start to experience the cause and condition of what you used to identify with as body energy, as memory, as what your personal experience is made up of. Okay, and you start allowing that to associate to consciousness being the experience, and it can feel at first very vulnerable. Okay, it can feel naked, it can feel, you know, there's no technique and you're just being with it. Okay, this is sadhana, and you remain as the witness. What happens here is something very special, but I'm going to talk about that in step 6 and 7, because that's where we're learning the dynamic between consciousness and form. But the very fact that you're learning inquiry in step 4, where you've literally come to see this dynamic between body sensation and the will, how the old will has claimed the experience through your identification with it, seemingly claims the experience of your body, where you've identified with the body. What's happening now is you're claiming it back. Okay, you're claiming it back simply by being awareness. It's the only thing that can claim reality. Awareness is the only thing that can claim reality. It's awareness that can only know reality. So if awareness is the experience of your body, then your body starts to associate to a much deeper presence, a much deeper reality. And then it becomes a different cause and condition of how you then move through the will, how the will starts to respond. I just need to gather myself. And there's no glamour. There's no glamour. But as I said, I was very much thinking I was spiritual. I was, you know, in the first set of steps, I was working a spiritual program. And at that time of working a spiritual program, I really enjoyed listening to, you know, charismatic people in the 12 steps, American speakers especially. They seem to hit the nail on their head when in their charisma, in their presentation, in their knowledge of the 12 steps. And so at that stage, I was very much colluding with what I thought was good as well outside of myself. That's a great speaker, that's a great whatever, and all of that. But and I thought I was spiritual, and I was, and that was based on working a spiritual program. And as I said, there's a lot of personal self-consolation in that, but there was still me owning the experience of my body from this attachment to my mind. So after the awakening, doing the step 4 this time, I wasn't listening to any speakers. I wasn't reading any books. I just wanted the pure knowledge. And in terms of dynamic, the pure knowledge was in fact what we're seeing, the bearing witness, the awareness that could distinguish itself from form in its contemplation, in its abidance, was in fact the knowledge. And yet this knowledge knew nothing other than it could discriminate between body and the thought that arose out of it, but awareness remaining the experience. Yeah, and I came away from the collusion that glamour gives, you know, where we're all spiritual, we've all got a spiritual path, and we're all doing this. So in that sense, there's no glamour, and there's no, there's, you know, quite a bit of aloneness to it as well. A bit of aloneness that when you really look at the word, aloneness means all oneness, you see. Any questions on that? So what we're doing in inquiry is allowing the body sensation, the body itself, to associate to consciousness being the experience. And what you'll find with the body is a very interesting mechanism, because the body is what has the instinct, has the innate intelligence to predict events in a way where you'll feel secure or insecure. The body, okay? And I want to sort of open this up to a discussion. I want your experience on this, but what happens when we feel threatened, or if there's a threat of harm, or there's an insecurity or lack or something? Your body's going to tell you that. Okay, we've got it's in our DNA. It's in our ancestral patterns. It's our body is been reborn so many times. It's got all the information needed to survive this climate, to survive this plane of existence. So when you start to inquire, you may feel an insecurity in something. And it's okay to acknowledge that as awareness, to think you know, there's an insecurity, or there's an attraction. Even it works both ways. As awareness, you begin to just really experience that, allow that to come in. But what you'll notice is when you feel insecurity or attraction, it can suddenly be the cause and condition of something that pulls you out of the body awareness be an experience of that. It pull you into, and you'll be a reaction to it. Does that make sense? You'll go into ego reaction, you know. What you learn to do is you start just being with the body intelligence. Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah, that's when you said you wanted to open it up. I started when you were just sharing about foreign inquiry and seeing that the old way of doing it just feels wrong. The fear that's been appearing here in my solar plexus for a little while now, and my reaction to it just came up big time, because I just had some kind of projection into doing the meetings, and going into all of that is going back into my thinking and doing that way again at the meetings, or talking about it. It's reinforcing that aspect, and it's not allowing myself to remain as awareness just with the uncomfortable feeling and not touching any of the management of it or the figuring any of it out. So I just started to experience that again right now in my solar plexus as you were talking. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Can you see the conditions you're already placing on yourself? By going to meetings, it pulls you out. By doing this, already you're kind of starting to direct it.
Yeah.
See how cunning this is?
Yeah.
Already you're being pulled into a self-directing way of managing the solar plexus.
Yeah.
So the solar plexus, whatever insecurity that is, whatever instinct that is already the cause and condition of you beginning to isolate yourself and start managing yourself. It's very subtle. So as awareness, totally disregard the direction of it and stay with that for however long it takes, that body sensation, and that body sensation in time will start to open up to what is as awareness being the experience. In the meantime, just do the right action.
Sorry, yeah. When it's really, you see, I know what you're saying is true. I feel it, it's so true, but it's so hard to stay with that feeling when it's intense and not try and do something with it to get the relationship here is to try and get rid of it, that feeling somehow, and I do not want to feel it. So I know what you're saying is true, and doing the best with the maturity I have to stay with it, but sometimes I find I abandon that and get busy with something.
What I was shown in inquiry was, in step 4, was there are 6 things that prompt us to react. There are 6 things that are the cause and condition of us trying to manage it, okay? 6 basic instincts that are inherently bodily intelligence, okay? So I've been through these before, but I'll go through them again. You've got sex relations, personal relations, self-esteem, security instinct, ambition, and finance, right? These are the 6 main things that will trigger you to security, insecurity, or attraction, okay? When you look at these instincts that make up the self, the body, not the will, but the body, can you locate that sense of insecurity in your solar plexus? Can you see what instinct has been activated to cause such insecurity? Can you, out of all of those, can you run through them? And in terms of inquiry, can you see, you know, it's a social anxiety, or it's a financial anxiety, or security, I'm about to lose my home? Are you able to register or see what part of self affected?
Well, the first one that came to mind was financial, but I don't have any. I'm not financially insecure, but that's what came up. Maybe that's what I'm worrying about, that in the future or something, or But what were the other ones you mentioned?
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem, probably around that, I would say.
No, because because it's actually a bodily instinct that we feel good about ourselves, that we like how we're being.
Yeah.
With people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a society. We wouldn't have the cohesion that we have now as a society. And if we didn't have that cohesion in a society, we wouldn't survive as a society. So we've got this very deeply ingrained instinct, this ancestral memory that if you don't like yourself and take care of yourself and like yourself, then no one else is, you know.
That's what it feels like. It's around. It feels like I'm not being true to what I know I should. There it is. Should. I'm not being true to a way of being that I know I can be. And it feels like that. It's all around. There's some kind of holding on to something here, and
Okay.
I'm going to have to sit with it so I can be a bit clear about what it is. But I might write those or listen to what you with this recording and write those instincts down so I can look at them or get clear about maybe which one it is, or maybe it's a few of them together.
The way to do it is you'll see the thoughts, the emotional nature. You'll see what thought and emotional nature is occurring, what kind of self-direction is occurring, or habit of self-direction, or ego. And if you just listen to the body, because the body is the cause and condition of this. So go to the cause and condition, sit with the body, find out what instinct it is, and just listen to the instinct and allow it to slowly associate to consciousness being experienced, remain as consciousness, and it starts to reconfigure. You start to listen to whatever memory is coming up, whatever thing it needs healing. And of course the healing.
I think I'm definitely need to do that, because I've just been staying with the sensation, with this idealistic hope that would somehow go away. And it's
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you saw that, because the idealistic hope is fatal, isn't it? It just keeps you arrested.
Just reinforces it.
Yeah.
So the instincts were sex.
Do you have the big book, Scott?
Yeah.
It's it's all there. It's all in step 4. I'll show you.
Step 4. Okay, I'll have a look in the book. Fine.
Oh, here we are. Sorry about this. This will take me just a couple of minutes to, not even that. Oh, more about alcoholism. Okay, I've missed it somewhere. Now there is a solution. Yeah, it's in the book anyway. It's
okay. I'll go through step 4 and I'll find it. No problem.
Yeah, personal relations. Oh, here we are.
What page?
Page 65. It starts
65. Okay.
looking at them, and what you'll get is they'll get you. Step 4 gets you to look at the cause and condition of your personal direction, and it's your body, it's your instincts, it's the cause and condition.
I think it is just coming back at what's coming again is finances, even though I'm not it's because I'm okay financially, but I've lacked that all my life. So I think deeply in my cells is this fear that I'm not financially okay, and I'm constantly worrying and trying to figure out how to make that continue. Whereas when I stay in the moment, everything tends to take care of itself anyway financially. So it's really having to meet and address that.
So there's something in your instinct, there's something in your body that if you just stay with it, will open up, and it will give you back the memories that need healing through observation. You know, it needs to reconfigure. The trouble is, the custom has always been to go into self-will and manage it, you know.
Yeah, manage it, try and figure out how to make sure there's always going to be enough money, and that can pull me away.
And then
from
also the
remaining
spiritual
on-
ideal, and
Yeah.
even our spiritual ideal can follow us here and go,
Yeah,
you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So after doing inquiry in step 4, it really is looking at body sensation and how we've developed a habit to react to it and
yeah,
claim the experience of it. That's all it is.
okay,
But remaining as awareness, you start to let go of the story, so to speak, the narrative, and you just stay with the body sensation, allow
Yeah.
it to come back to consciousness rather than being taken into one's personal will being experience. This can take some time.
it's so
But-
it's so you know, it's so simple, but it's so difficult when it's strong. But it's
It
but
gets easier. It
it
gets
gets
easier.
easier. I know it's not impossible, and I know this is as you said, this is my sadhana, what I have to be with.
It gets easier when you really learn that distinction between body sensation and the mental and emotional will or
Yeah.
reaction or claiming experience. When
Yeah,
you
that's
really-
what I've picked up, the emotional, the mental will around finances. And I can absolutely see it now. It's absolutely clear.
Yeah. And then all of that you can let go of, not in any willful way or self-directed way, but just remaining as awareness. And it just naturally fades as you focus more on the body sensation being what's reconfigurating to consciousness being experience. It starts to soften, and then the cause and condition starts to change naturally. Not the cause and naturally, and the result starts to change naturally. And it all starts to associate to consciousness being the experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thanks, Steve.
yeah, it's really not you doing the step 4 at this
No.
stage, not you doing it. It's you learning to discriminate, learning to distinguish, learning to just be with whatever body sensation without any ideology, without a thought for what would be better, you know.
Yeah.
Real surrender stuff.
Yeah, it's just how what's unfolding at the moment. But but what I'm learning through AA is just to be honest about what's happening and come away from all the idealistic stuff. Because I'd like speaking to you even before the drinking picked up and going to AA. The whole awakening thing was meaningless while I was still using that to carry on hiding, you know, my abusing the alcohol basically. So yeah.
So it's a powerful tool, the step 4 inventory process. Like I said before, before the realization that consciousness is the experience, all of that was given to my own personal direction, means of working the program. So that's what happens.
Yeah.
So, but the true depth of step 4 is inquiry, which then leads you to step 5, where it says, oh, where is it? It's quite a long one.
Yeah, step 5. I read it out at the meeting the other day. The where you get ruthlessly honest and.
Yeah, it says we got us honest with ourselves, God, and another person.
Yeah.
Okay, we shared our defects of character with ourselves, God, and another person. Okay, so basically, as awareness, learning to discriminate, you share this, the defect, the false self, and it busts it. It's designed to bust it. You know, once you speak the word that busts one's false intention, one's willful possession of the body, once you speak that word as awareness, what happens is you start to connect differently. You start to connect as awareness. You're no longer connecting as the full self directing the body. Now, as you know, there are people in much wider groups of immature spirituality where, have you noticed how, oh, let me just, have you, I'll say that this is not, by the way, when I say this, when I make these distinctions, I'm not in any way being, running anything down. I believe there are levels to spirituality and development and maturity. So I'm comparing this to levels of maturity. When you go back to your early spiritual life, have you noticed how it's all done in numbers, how it's done with how you'll share your thoughts on something, and you like someone because you have similar thoughts or similar emotions or similar situation or a similar spirituality, and it becomes quite cohesive and collusive. It's almost you collude with your own idea of what you think spirituality is, and you find people similar. And there's a good feeling, there's a consolation. I certainly had that, and I was proud of that, and I was in AA and I loved AA, and this everyone should be working this program, you know. And then suddenly at this stage in step 5, in the true sense of step 5, I realized for true connection, it's not about how I feel or what I think or anything about me. The only thing that can truly connect is awareness. Awareness, aware of the body, awareness, you know, honest with self, true congruence of your body in relation to consciousness, the true self, they call it. Honest with self, honest with God, and honest with another human being. It's about seeing how really there's only connection. There's only, when you talk to somebody, you're when you can identify yourself as the self or as awareness, you see the awareness in someone else, and that becomes the connection point that merges. Okay, otherwise you'll come out of that and you go, oh, is that what you think? Oh yeah, I think that. Oh, yeah. And you just go back into the ego again, and it will find many people to go, oh yeah, I like Eckhart Tolle. Oh, you like Eckhart Tolle? Oh, I love Eckhart Tolle. You know, and by the way, I respect Eckhart Tolle. Trust me, I think he's wonderful. It's just that he's very, you know, he's a very, very popular name that I know you would understand. So suddenly, as awareness being the experience of your body in step 4, allowing the character defect, because it's defective, because it's associating to the body, not to consciousness being the experience. So that's where it defects. Suddenly, you find there are only these 3 connecting points. And these connecting points, when remaining as awareness, occur in 3 ways. It is awareness is in its innermost contemplation, when it merges with itself, when it's awareness of awareness, enters into a non-locality, absolute level of reality. It's not in the body. Upon awakening, you realize that you'd spent too much time going inside the body, thinking that going within was in the body. But when awakening occurs, you realize there's no going in the body. The body is an object. The thought, emotion is a what do you call it? Is a form that arises out of consciousness. There is no within. There's just these forms appearing, you see. And so the within the body, what we call the subjective reality, what one is feeling, what one is thinking, suddenly from consciousness, it's all objective. It's kind of subjective and objective become one. It's all objects, you see. So you come to see that you no longer use the objects to collude. You just, what's witnessing, what's experiencing, knows itself as the self, or knows its innermost as the absolute reality, knows the body, knows itself as awareness, so honest with self, and it sees that in another person. So suddenly there's this connection that goes from within what you really are as awareness, not within the body, within awareness, and suddenly connecting with somebody else on that level. And you come to see that that is where God has made everyone equal. We are all that. There is just this moment, and there is only this connection that connects in three ways. This awareness seems to contemplate the ground of all being, seems to be the experience of your body, and seems to connect with that in all things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, this is obviously at a very mature level of awareness and a very mature level of having inquired. Whereas when you look at the marketplace, the spiritual marketplace, there's some of that, but a lot of it is still given to the idea of spirituality, so to speak, you know, when in fact, there really is no idea. It's just real.
Yeah. Well, what you just described started to be my experience a while ago, started to become more established, and then life got painful, and I slowly picked up all of the old emotional and the old tendency and the old habit played out again. So I'm in the process of coming back to that, knowing what you're sharing somehow.
Yeah. And maybe now you're ready.
Yeah.
As awareness, that is.
Yeah.
You know, to give everything away.
Give everything away. And that what we were just talking before about the conditions, those 6 conditions, through inquiry, locating which ones that have I've abandoned knowing for and giving them away, come back to knowing.
Yeah, because that's what happens is
Yeah.
often when I, you know, I'm a therapist, so I do private therapy for people online. And often people are so caught up in the mental and emotional aspect, you know, they've even forgotten what the body sensation is or what it is. They're just looping. They're doing this looping. You know?
Yeah. Now, I suppose what the body sensation has been saying all along, very loudly and clearly, is that you've abandoned your knowing and you've picked up this old thing again.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. And contracted back into the separate self sense and everything that's associated with it.
Yeah. The only way out of it is inquiry for no one.
Yeah.
Absolutely no one. So then step 5, you kind of like in a step 5, you're busted. You know, once you've learned to discriminate and you've really come to see how obvious this deception is, you come to see how dishonest the false self is, the I activity is, how to claim experience, to live within a narrative, and to live from body sensation narrative and to view the world in that way. It stops you seeing that all is consciousness, or it stops you really connecting on a conscious level, you see?
Yeah.
So once you start connecting on a conscious level, you then, in those 3 ways, it completely just obliterates the old deception to want to claim the body. You start living in as presence, as oneness.
Yeah.
And then in step 6, it says we're entirely ready to have all our character defects removed. That's what step 6 is. And not many people talk about step 6. And no one likes talking about step 6, except I love talking about step 6. They don't like talking about 6 and 7. They're too abstract. They're too, you know, because the ego can't get it. The ego cannot get step 6 to 7. But I love it, because when the awakening occurred and I saw through it, I saw the majesty and I saw the brilliance of step 6 and 7. It's so brilliant. I cannot tell you. It says we're entirely ready, ready, whatever, to have our character defects removed. And it's here.
That's a big one. That's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's even here that Bill W., the guy who wrote the 12 steps, the co-founder of the 12 steps, said, step 6 and 7, these are the steps that differentiate the men from the boys. And again, there's that comparison between immaturity and maturity. It's not a criticism at all. It's not a criticism. But in maturity, you come to see that readiness, willingness, again, is awareness, standing as awareness. Now, at this point, you can always be tempted to go into the mental and the emotional direction of your life, possessing your body sensation, or now that you've learned to do all of this as awareness, to discriminate, to connect in 3 ways, are you willing now to really let it go? Are you really now ready to entirely, are you ready to let that go? And of course you are. Of course you are. If you've awakened, you're absolutely ready. Okay. But step 6 is step 7 as well. I mean, step 6 and 7 is just one step really, but they divided it into 2 for good reasons, really. And in step 7, it says, we ask God, we ask God to remove these defects of character. Okay. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, some people who think they know what it means just means, in a personal sense, I'm ready and God will help me. And you can develop a whole idea of that and personal consolation out of that. And your life just becomes a ritual of prayer and certain other things, certain.
What does it really mean? You're ready to have all the things that had you abandoning, knowing all of those obsessions taken away. It's about, are you now, this is what step 6 said, I'll explain it to you. Are you ready now to identify yourself as awareness and to live in relation to awareness, in the innermost of awareness? And that's what God is. You see, awareness is the knowing of the body, right? It doesn't live in relation to the body. It's the knowing of the body. So awareness comes first. That's readiness, that's willingness, because it's the true will. The knowing of something is the will. That willingness then, when it investigates itself, comes to see that its origin is complete non-location. It's the ground of all being. So 6 and 7 are saying, are you willing now to live as the ground, as the knowing of the ground of being, as the solution to the mind reconfigurating the mind, or the attachment to the mind to completely fall away. Right, because it's here, and this is why I like these steps, because if you didn't have those steps and you thought you'd got it, you'd think it'd be down to you. You'd continue getting self-consolation in the way you work the program. But if you've worked the spiritual principles well enough and you've really matured in understanding, and it all aligns to awareness, then in step 6 and 7 saying, right now, as awareness, are you entirely ready to stand as awareness in relation to your innermost non-locality, and allow that to be the process by which everything starts to reconfigure, everything starts to come inward, to associate, because if you're not ready, you'll just stay in self-will direction. You just say, oh no, I want to do it my way. I like working on myself. I like working out the patterns. I like being a therapist, basically. Yeah. This is where you have to get really honest. I suppose if you're not ready to be that naked, that vulnerable, then it's better to be honest about that and say, well, actually, I'm not ready. I don't know.
Yeah. So the 12 steps, when awakening occurs and you look at the 12 steps, it's pointing not just at what awakens, but it also becomes a way of integrating. That's the wonderful thing about the 12 steps. It does 2 things. It's kind of you can work it and not awaken. You know, many people do. Or you can work it, awaken. But instead of saying, I'm awakened now, I don't need the steps. I'm awakened now, I don't need anything. It's just this, you know, that's just silly to say that. But upon awakening, the steps then become the way of inquiry, the way of integration, the way of consciousness, in a way,
Yeah.
which is unbelievably brilliant.
Yeah.
You know,
I really feel the power of what you're saying, how you've been sharing today, and how it manifests that way.
yeah.
Very true.
I've got more to share though. I've done steps 6 and 7. I don't think I'm going to be able to do 8, 9, 10, 11.
Another day, maybe.
Yeah, I'll add it onto this one though. So if you've paid for this, I'll just continue. How about tomorrow? I was going to do it today, but I'm tired, to be honest. This has been quite going through this in the way that I see it, and it takes a lot. Maybe tomorrow, if you can't make it, don't worry, I can always send it to you. But
Yeah,
tomorrow?
we're busy tomorrow getting ready, and then on Monday we're coming down to Hastings for 4 or 5 days, and I can catch up with you down there.
Yeah, but I'm still going to do the end of this one anyway. I'll do it
Okay.
tomorrow. If anyone can join me, that's fine. If not, yeah, I'll send it to you. So step 6 and 7 is pretty much, in a way, it's pointing at a few things. It's also pointing at the anatomy of awareness in relation to awareness, going within awareness, which is the ultimate prayer, the ultimate union. Knowing it is of the ground of being and is the ground of being. They're indistinct. That's why Jesus says, I'm of the Father is in me, I'm in the Father, and stuff like that. They're indistinct. As awareness is indistinct to its natural state. It's only when you identify with the thought that arises out of the body that suddenly these distinctions are things you get caught up in. You get caught up in these distinctions. Well, I don't think that way. Oh, I don't like that one. You know, all of these distinctions, every thought is distinct from other thought, feeling, you know, and we collude with people that are roughly the same as us. But we live in a world of distinction. And the thought will always remain distinct. But the awareness of the thought is indistinct. Is in fact distinct from the thought, but is indistinct from its true nature, from God. From God, our Holy Father. Interesting, isn't it? Any more questions? Is there anything need to expand on just over what I have shared today? Donna, are you there?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I like your knowledge of the Bible, because you kind of pick up on quite obscure things and not the everyday things that people comment on. So what was I going to say? Do you know, saying all that, I forgot what I was going to say. That's probably because I'm tired.
You know, I reflect a lot on, you know, the time with Thomas Keating and how he would always say, turn in the other direction, you're seeking for happiness or something like that, you know, and it really, over time, the deeper meaning of that, like just the whole turning around of, or the um, the, I don't know, like transposition of reality, you know, turns
Yeah, that's
inside
a
out.
good way of putting it. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I've really got a lot of respect for Thomas Keating.
Yeah.
His in 2000, I think I was given the Invitation to Love. This is why my site is called Invitation to Being. It's inspired from Thomas Keating.
Wow.
And his book, The Invitation to Love, is just remarkable. And that man's insight into Christian mysticism and awareness and consciousness is just incredible, really.
Yeah. And he told it so beautifully, like stories, you know, not like, yeah.
Beautiful man. And we lost him. When did we lose him? A year ago, 2 years ago?
I think it
Long
was
ago.
2018 or not, somewhere in there, just a few years ago.
Yeah. And did you read any of Thomas Merton by any chance?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Thomas Merton's book, Raids on the Unspeakable, is one of my favorite.
What's it?
Raids on the Unspeakable.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna look that. I've not read that one. No.
Beautiful book, because the guy is a great writer and incredibly lucid, and he's basically writing this contemplation where he's on retreat, living in a hut in the middle of a forest, and he's describing everything, and it's just amazing. Beautiful the way he speaks of the interior silence and the direct experience of life.
Yeah. That's the trick, is like the expression of it, the clear or clean expression of something, without adding, I don't know, just
yeah, I know what you're saying, without adding footnotes and having an analytical mind, or yeah, I know what you're saying. I after the awakening, I began trying to read books, and if it was someone just talking, I just threw it across the room. And then if it was the Bible or a Gita or something, or Zen, it was like, oh, this is okay. This is good.
I wanted to ask, this is a little bit unrelated, I think, but I wanted to ask, you know, like in the Upanishads, when they talk about the dream realms or sleep realms, they're referring to levels of the unconscious, aren't they? Like people kind of nowadays translate that as like actual sleeping, you know?
States. Yeah, they're all states.
They're more like various, kind of like how the anyway, I just wanted to clarify that with you.
They're just it's always fascinating, isn't it? Because they call the awakening, what awakens, the deep sleep state, the deep sleep or something.
Yeah,
which is quite incredible. But then it is unknowing. It is doesn't think.
Right. So it's like allowing the unconscious to be known. So it's really like a relationship with the unknown of oneself, which is the unconscious, which is
the unconscious is our forms, we've got a relationship between the unconscious, which is the body, and the subconscious mechanism of will, where we've developed habits. They're unconscious, but within all, but there is a conscious element, which is what's knowing of it, which is just conscious, but we don't have to identify with the subconscious.
Can you clarify? You just used both the terms, unconscious and subconscious. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, the unconscious is the subconscious we can access. We'll feel something in the body and we'll have an unconscious response, and we can kind of access it and pick it apart and under these learned behaviors, these learned responses, but then we can do that, but we can't access directly the unconscious. You can't just go in there, you know, and
Yeah.
access
So
it.
that would be like another way to say that would be what's outside the waking state mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the unconscious is interesting because it shows itself in dreams. It shows itself in, you know, what's that
Right.
the other
Right.
thing?
And that's where, like, when people have, you know, kind of identified with, like what you mentioned earlier in spirituality with like fairies or whatnot, that's representation of the unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ones.
Yeah. They're all the archetypes and what have you. It's interesting because Carl Jung said that when talking about the archetype, he said, but at the center of every archetype, there's no time. You know, he spoke about the unconscious, there's no time. And I thought it's the same anyway with consciousness, there's no time. It's just, you know, but with people's beliefs. But like I say, I hope I've not been disrespectful today because, you know, whatever it takes for a person to get sober, I would never, ever criticize. They could live.
Yeah, no, you've been very respectful. Yeah, it's because that's like saying, I mean, that's really like to speak respectfully of immaturity is really just to recognize that everything is true where you're at. It's sort of like, okay.
Absolutely true. Yeah. Yeah. And we have to, immaturity is part of becoming mature, you know. So it's just that there are stages, there are levels, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been good. I've really enjoyed today, folks. Thank you for joining me. It's been a real pleasure to share these steps with you. And maybe.
Will you send out a new link for tomorrow? I think I can join. I'm not quite sure.
Well, I don't need Chris to do this one. I can do this one. I'll send you the link. I'll send you an invite, and you can just join. Okay. So Scott, are you saying you can't make it tomorrow, Scott?
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty busy tomorrow, running around, sorting a lot of things out before I come down to Hastings for a week.
God, it might just be me and you, Donna. If it's just me and you, we can have a wonderful conversation. I can explain it, and then that can be sent to others. But I think Mike could be coming. Could be someone else. Are you going to be free? Anyone tomorrow? So you'll be free, Donna? Did you say?
Yes, I'm going to make sure I'm free now. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's go with that then, and hopefully Mike will be free. And I'll just go through, spend an hour or so just on the other ones. And then I'll upload them and they can all be sent out together. All right.
Nice one. Thanks.
Let's say tomorrow, same time. No, a bit later for you, Donna. What's a good time for you? Say 10 a.m. your time?
Right now it's 8:25. It doesn't matter. I can.
Are you an early? Are you okay getting up early?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Should we do it, say, crikey, what time's good for you, Donna?
How about 6 my time, which would be
1 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, 6 your time.
Add 5 hours.
Your center, your central time, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
Central time. Okay, so did you say what time?
6 a.m.
6 a.m. Central time. I'll work it.
That'll be 2 p.m. your time.
Is that true, Donna?
No, 6 a.m. will be midday. 6 hours plus 6 hours.
Let me see. I know that 1:30 p.m. my time is no, I can't even remember that anymore. I'm not thinking right now.
Donna, it's 8:30 at the moment your time.
Yes.
And it's 2:30 here, so it's 6 hours plus 6 hours.
Okay.
Oh, 1 o'clock then. 1 o'clock. That's great.
Okay. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for me. That works.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully that works for Mike and anyone else who's coming. So
Okay.
I might open it up tomorrow for anyone if anyone wants to come along. Okay. Would you be okay there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay then. All right. Well, listen, it's been a very pleasurable experience talking with you all. Nice to see you all. So have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow for an hour just to finish off the last steps, and we'll go from there. So enjoy. Thanks, Chris, for setting this up. Take care, Scott. I'll see you. Is it Monday?
Thanks, Steve. Take care.
You're
mate.
coming down Monday.
If I can make tomorrow, I'll try and get on, but we'll see how we go.
But are you coming to Hastings?
Yeah, that'll be on Monday afternoon. Yeah.
All right, I'll see you then. All right.
All right.
Take care, Donna. Take care, Scott, Mike, all of you.
Take care. Bye.
Cheerio.